It is now time to experience the buzz. A podcast that takes an inside look at amazing people doing amazing things. Get ready for some great conversation that will be fascinating, educational, and inspiring. We will also leave room to help small businesses in a big way. Now, here's your host, entrepreneur Steve Buzzard.
Welcome in, everyone. It is Experience the Buzz. I am so glad you can be with us today. Oh, man, we are going to be talking about one of my favorite games. Well, I've got two favorites, baseball and golf. This one's timely because coming up is the Masters. That's right, the first of the four bigs, as we like to call them in golf. And with now everything being back to normal, of course, we're talking about the Masters. And so when we talk about golf, today's guest is Bobby Siravo, and he is the owner of iFit Golf, but his connection with Sacramento Golf is amazing, and you're going to find that out in today's story. There's actually things that were unveiled today in the conversation that I'm going, wow, I didn't realize that was the case. And so I'm really looking forward to today's conversation. More on Bobby in just a minute. It's now time for What's the Buzz. So What's the Buzz? It's very simple. This is my favorite time of the year. I love April for various reasons. Okay, you got the start of baseball coming up. You got the Masters coming up. My birthday, my dad's birthday, and so a lot of fun stuff. And I just have to say, I am so excited because we are at a point now with the show where we've got a lot of podcast episodes that we have put together and are coming your way. And we are really trying to enhance everything. If you are listening to the audio side, you're going to probably get much of the same, which has been great. You know, we're over 80 episodes now. But then I do invite you, check out the YouTube version. That's where we are starting to build. It started a few weeks ago with Chemo and Dakota of Fruit Frenzy, but now we're adding to that library. And of course, I got my great producer, Michael Kenobi, who is like always coming to me with brand new ideas. We're looking at platforms and everything. And so we are really going to build this up. And I don't know about you, I love listening to the podcast, but if I have a favorite, I'll go check them out on video just to see what it looks like. Because obviously when you're listening to a podcast, you kind of have that vision in your mind of what would this look like? And then you're like, oh, wait, it's on YouTube, so let's check it out. So you can check out Experience the Buzz on the audio format by either going to buzzardball.com. You can go to Apple, Spotify, or Google and just type in Experience the Buzz. Same thing when you go to YouTube. Just put in the search Experience the Buzz, and you should see us pop up right there. Also want to let you know that you can support the program. That's right. We got a little program. It's kind of, you may have heard of like Patreon. We're not quite Patreon. I kind of went with this thing. It's called Buy Me a Coffee. I kind of like that because I love coffee. And you can go on buzzardball.com if you would like to support the program by either just giving a one-time gift, and it could be whatever you want, or you could give monthly. It's totally up to you. You can do that by going to buzzardball.com. You can go into the segment of where it says, I believe, give to the program, and take it from there. It should say buy me a coffee, and you should be good to go. Okay, let's get back to our guest, Bobby Siravo. Today's conversation, cannot wait, because we're going to hit a lot of great things. We're going to talk about his background. We're going to talk about iFit Golf, which is his story, which is all about customization, right? Going in, if you want to get new clubs, maybe one club, maybe you need repairs. This is the guy, because when I talk about supporting small businesses, my encouragement to you is that if you love golf and you need anything in that area, go to Bobby Siravo, okay? And we'll give all his information to you. But then there's this part of what's his story? Oh my gosh, his story is amazing. And so that will be shared today. So without further ado, it's Bobby Siravo of iFit Golf. Enjoy the conversation. Welcome in, everyone. It is Experience the Buzz, and it's Masters Week. That's right. We are talking golf today, and our guest, local golf guy, man, and he's done it for so many years. We are talking about Bobby Siravo. Bobby, welcome to the program.
Hey, thanks, Steve. Good to be on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's good to have you. And so perfect time. Actually, we had kind of encountered each other a few months ago. Why? Because you custom fitted me for golf clubs, something I had not done ever, because my first set of golf clubs that I had were Pen Seekers. So that's going way back. And I got them as a teenager. Just celebrated my 53rd birthday yesterday. So it was time. So I have to say thank you, first of all. And that was a great experience.
Well, great. It's a great time to be in golf right now for sure. And so many people are playing. And I'm connecting with so many different people from, well, I don't know, growing up to in my kids' sports activities, and people who knew I was in golf, but maybe never were really golfers themselves. But over the last couple of years, so many people have gotten into the game, and it's like I said, it's an exciting time to be a part of it. Glad to hear your clubs are working well.
Yeah, clubs are working well. It's funny. Remember, I texted you a little video. My son went to Ansel Hoffman, and we were on hole number 6, and literally had one of those moments where we both piped drives of 300 plus. Now, I need to note, I have never hit a 300-yard drive, and you told me, you said, listen, your drives are going to go further. And the beautiful thing, you said, just wait till summer. So I felt really good about that. But that was a great moment. But I had to text that video to you, like,
Yeah, that was
okay,
great.
the clubs are working.
Yeah, I love getting that feedback from guys. That's great.
So let's start right there, because there's so much history behind you in terms of you and the world of golf. And we're going to hit like on your story. We're going to talk about the Masters, because that's coming up. And the cool thing is that you're actually going this weekend. So we're going to talk about that experience. Your golf shop, iFit Golf, which has been around since 2004, started in Folsom. You are now in Rancho Cordova. It's on Folsom Boulevard at 11511, and basically have a nice little space there where you guys are able to really custom fit everyone, from someone like me who just loves to play golf to someone who could be a pro or someone in high school. It's like you cover all the ranks. So talk to us first about the shop that's been a nice mainstay here in the capital city.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Well, it just sort of started as a way of my idea of how could I bring the custom fitting experience that a lot of the tour pros get. How could I bring that back into Sacramento for the regular golfer, if you will? And going back 15 years, these ideas of launch monitors, the TrackMans and things, those are all fairly new. Maybe a tour pro might be able to get use on something like that, but not the regular amateur golfer. And so it's how can I bring that experience back to, regular golfers? And that's how the whole idea was born. And, just whether you said like from a high school golfer to regular amateurs to, pros that come in and get their club work done from us. And so it's been a long time of just being able to give back to golf in my way. And what's easy for me is all I know is golf, and it's easy for me to talk to. I'm curious about all the stuff. I want to learn about it for my own game. And that's what I got. Most of our guys on our staff are all really good golfers, and they're all trying to improve their own game. So they're all curious about the latest and greatest. And it's easy to sort of pass your passion along to others. And versus something like if I were to try to sell insurance for something like, I'd be making stuff up, trying to be excited about selling something that's not me. And so it's always been great to be a part of golf and to be able to give back in golf. And so, yeah, it's been a great little run here. And like I said, the last 2 years, I've become one of the most popular guys in town because everybody's playing golf. So it's a real exciting time.
Well, and that's the crazy thing is because when I talk to small business owners on this program, we always have that little section of how did you, pivot from COVID? And it's interesting because golf, it's like, not only did it it didn't go down, it like surged, right? So kind of take us through that, because it was big for you guys.
There was a part of about 2 weeks when everything first kind of hit was like, okay, what in the world's going on? And fortunately, and there were a lot of golf courses around the country, Southern California in particular, that they closed their golf courses. And we were very fortunate in Sacramento that all of our golf courses stayed open. And they recognized it early on that this was something, activities that families could do, kids of all ages, and people, they could be outdoors playing golf. And so we've picked in literally a couple weeks, we realized, hey, wait a second, as long as golf is staying open, this is going to be something big. And so from that point on, it was how do we take advantage of this opportunity to procure a product. It's been very challenging, but how do you go about being smart about finding the right inventory, finding the right way to get it to people? And in the last couple of years, though, it's just been crazy how all that's happened and come down.
Yeah, and because everybody took up hobbies. So I would imagine you had a lot of people who were first-time golfers who were coming into you.
Absolutely. Lots of athletes whose sports they couldn't continue to play. Lots of baseball players, because these were the sports that were shut down. And so they wanted to be active, and they found out that they could still be with their buddies. They could play and be competitive. It was a sport that was outdoors. And so it was a natural fit for athletes. And they became they had enough these athletes that are good hand-eye. They had enough good shots to kind of want to get curious about the game. And then they started realizing we can go to other courses to play. We can travel and get together, whether it's vacations or whatever it is. They could surround things around golf. And so it became very popular. And then also, besides the athletes, it was just the families of, instead of the families going to the kids' soccer games or whatever it might be that they couldn't play, they were getting together and going to the golf course and playing. And I think what we've seen now is, the influx of all these players. There's so many new people that are playing the game and enjoying it that I think golf's here for a while stick around.
See, and that's the big thing for you is because you're in a category where truly golf is one of those things. It's a life sport, right? You can play it from young all the way through old, and that's very unique. So in a way, I don't want to say you don't have to worry, but it really is there's some security there in knowing, like, listen, this is a sport that's really not going to drop off.
Yeah, and another point to that is it's a sport that you can enjoy it for more than just the reasons of being, an accomplished player at it.
Mm-hmm.
You can enjoy, like I said, going on vacations. You can enjoy being in the outdoors, playing other courses, and levels of play. You can play with your spouse, you can play with your kids, where you don't find that in sports that you sort of go beyond your high school or college days. You don't have the softball leagues where you and your kids can play on the same team together. There's not, rec basketball leagues or whatever you might have where it could be co-ed and everybody can do it as a family, where this is what you can do in golf. And like I said, as far as being an accomplished player, golf accommodates all levels of play and they all can enjoy it. So there's not a prerequisite of having to be very good or accomplished to continue to play.
So I'm going to do this because we need to set this up because yes, we have Bobby on to talk about iFit golf and we're going to talk about my experience that I had, which is a great experience when I stepped in to his store. But the accomplishments of Bobby Siravo, very impressive. PGA class professional. He's done that since 2001. He was the captain of the San Jose State golf team from 89 to 91.
Go Spartans.
Go Spartans. Yep, go Spartans. He spent 3 years on the PGA Tour on the mini tours, also went to the PGA Tour Q School, then became a caddy. He was a caddy in 2005 and 2006 for guess who? Kevin and David Sutherland. So he was there for the Sutherland brothers. And just as of recently, outside of what he's doing, he has been the golf coach for Jesuit High School, which is a great program. He has been doing that since 2020. So his acumen for golf is all there. And I love the fact that you were able to draw into your passion. Sticking with the store aspect of it, I always like to know from an entrepreneur's state of mind, 2004, you open up in Folsom. What was that like? Because when we talk brick and mortar, there are so many aspects that go into opening a store.
Yeah, had no idea what I was doing, and had no idea what I was doing, and thought, I can just leverage my golf background in Sacramento because I know a lot of people, and I'll start selling golf clubs, and it'll be the greatest thing. And it was like, what in the world was I thinking? If I could go back and correct. Somehow we survived because I could go back and correct those mistakes. But that's how you learn, right? You learn no matter what you're doing from your mistakes. But you know what it was is at the end of the day, I did leverage not only the people who I knew and the contacts and everything. I've been in Sacramento golf for a long time. But at the end of the day, it was really just about enjoying being in golf. And I had been a teacher, all the other things you said, but I also was a club pro. I had worked at Del Paso Country Club. I'd worked at El Macero. I had been around country clubs as a teaching pro. And I knew I wanted a little something more than that and was willing to work at, the entrepreneurship, something like that. Instead of just being on the lesson tee grinding hour after hour, giving lessons, I knew there was something a little bit more that I was shooting for and a little more challenging, a little bit more business related. And so that's how that kind of all came about. And 16 years later, we're still doing it. I still don't know if I know what I'm doing, but I just keep doing it,
Well, that's the life of an entrepreneur, right? And you have been successful. And the fact that you've been open since 2004, listen, that's something to applaud. So take me through the move then to come out to Rancho Cordova. Was it just about getting a bigger space?
Actually, it was about getting a smaller space. We had been in Folsom. And we were in a big center, with REI, Best Buy, Staples, real national tenant powerhouses, and if you will, and so the rent in Folsom was just skyrocketing. And this is 2017, and golf was kind of struggling along, and it was just very stressful, meeting that nut every month. And the owners of the building, they were not local owners. They owned thousands of properties. They were based out of Phoenix. They weren't people I knew from my history and background in golf. I couldn't leverage that to the landlords. They're like, hey, we're giving you a good deal as it is. The day you leave, we're going to up the rent, and we got a waiting list of people. And I said, all right. So I kind of went a little, kind of scary times. It was a little month to month. And that's the reality of kind of small business owners. It was like month to month. And finally they said, all right, we got a tenant, we got a lease signed, you got 90 days to get out of there. And so after that point in time, you got 90 days. And I had to find a spot, and literally driving from Sacramento up Highway 50 to Folsom, I was just looking at signs like you're house hunting almost, but imagine doing it for a commercial property. That's what I was doing. And lo and behold, there was a building that I saw a sign. I called a good friend of mine who's a broker, and he called and said, hey, space just came open, let's do it. And so it all worked out in a short period of time, moved in. And so what really worked out to my benefit was having been in business for probably 12 years and building up a clientele and a following. So when we moved our location, we already had a built-in set of customers, and kind of moved off the beaten path. People still followed us. They still recognized who we were. It was the same employees, the same service. So we still delivered everything, a little bit smaller, but considerably less rent. And I mean, a third of basically what we were paying. And that is just, allows you to sleep a little better at night, And surprisingly, I realized I wasn't sure how it was going to be, but probably about the third month into being in our new property in Rancho Cordova, which is in a more of a sort of industrial area, not your super retail-y spot. I realized we were going to be okay, because the familiar faces were showing back up. We moved in January, so the third month was March, where you kind of got into the golf season, and everybody was showing up, wanting to know where the new stuff was, and I knew we were going to be okay then. And so it's been a good run. And then we hit the timing perfect 2 years ago. So we had our expenses down, and then golf hit a boom. So that's where we are now.
Again, I say life as an entrepreneur, no doubt about it, right there.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, that's the real stuff. Now I can tell you, the new building, the air conditioner doesn't work as good. It's cold in the winter time, the heater. I got ants that come in like every summertime around the state. There's these little things you find out about it. That, the other building was brand new. So it's like a new house versus an old house.
Yeah, the reality of it all. So those of you that are local and are listening to this program, if you head Highway 50 going toward Tahoe, boom, you can get off on Sunrise, take a left on Folsom. And I'd say go about, what, a mile and a half down?
Yeah, about a mile. Yeah. Close to Bases Loaded. For all you Bases Loaded fans out there, we're just down from Bases Loaded. Great baseball store. So
just a really small space. And outside of the costs and everything, I'll just say from my experience, just like stepping in, I knew you were going to be there and everything, but it just felt very homey, I guess is the way.
Great.
Like it's different than any other golf shop that you step in. You think of all the big ones that are around town and stuff, but this really, to me, had a personal feel to it. Is that kind of what you were going after with the clientele that you have?
There's no doubt about it. That's how we have to kind of, hang our hat on, sell ourselves. We don't have an outdoor driving range. We don't have a huge floor space of inventory. We got to sell ourselves on not only just the personal service, because everybody does their version of personal service. We got to do it quick. We got to have time. You have, whether it's a fitting or whether it's grips or repairs, we got to turn that stuff around as quick as we can. And we want people to realize that, you pretty much can walk and look over your shoulder at the repair work we're doing, kind of that homey feel, like you said, and get to know that customer one-on-one and really have time to talk to them, get them to know that, hey, you have quick needs. And I let the guys know, I'm here to turn that stuff around quick. And as much as we can service somebody, it means the world. Guys break clubs, they got a tournament the next day. They know it's a big ask if they can get it in a 2 hour. And when you can fulfill those type of things, they're like, wow, this is pretty cool service. So that's what we've had to kind of hang our hat on and be able to provide that quick kind of turnaround, those type of things.
Well, and that's why I'm trying to wrap my head around is I know how, you'll deal with someone like me, but it's all the different types of golfers that you have to deal with. Like you said,
Yeah.
those quick turnarounds for someone playing in a tournament, as opposed
Yeah.
to me, like, listen, if it takes a couple of weeks to get the clubs, I'm okay with that kind
Yeah.
of deal. So you deal with so much, I guess, diversity within those decisions of golfers.
Absolutely, and that's what kind of makes the job fun. Is every day is different. I don't know who's going to walk. We have a set schedule that we see, kind of people that schedule their fitting, so we kind of get an idea who's coming in. But then there's a lot of walk-in traffic, and then there's a lot of that stuff that's like, hey, all of a sudden I broke a shaft, I need to do that, or I get a call from a local pro that wants to get on the track, man, to take some numbers. Of course, I lived that world, I lived that life and what those guys are, and I know what they want, and I want to provide that. I got a kind of a soft spot for whether it's the mini tour pros, the college players in town, high school players, of servicing those guys, and I like to be as accommodating as I can to them, and also the other golf pros in town, that the services that they can't do, whether they're at a country club and that's not what they're equipped to do. I like to have really good relationships with those guys. If there's something we can do to help out them or their members to make their job a little bit easier, to service them in and out quick, we're all in this golf game together, and as especially in the local Sacramento area, it's a small world. I just like to be able to provide the help and the service when I can on a quick notice. And sometimes my staff guys are hanging around a little bit longer than they need to be, or I'm pushing them a little bit. They'll be in the middle of a job and I'll say, hey, push this aside. We got somebody else that really needs something now. And they kind of look at me like, what are you talking about? I got this. I said, no, we need to move this guy to the front of the line. So it's like I said, it's that soft spot that I got for some of these really good players, local players that come across that are in town.
That's what I appreciate about you, Bobby, is that, like, I love Sacramento, and when it comes to like people like yourself, I can feel that passion for you, and it just happens to be that your journey is about golf, and really you've taken all that, and your experience has led to the fact that you can run a business like this and be able to take care of people, and I know people see that like right away.
Yeah, I've just kind of all through my sports playing days, as a golfer, and even now I just call myself a hustler. It's just like what I do. And it's just I feel when it's almost like the joy I get out of is like when we have, I don't want to say the impossible because we're dealing golf here, right? And I tell my staff that at the end of the day, we're talking golf here, so, but I love it when there's a lot on the table and we can still find a way to get it all done and service people. It's like, there's no way we're going to get this job done for this guy in time. It's like, no, we're going to make it happen. And so it's those type of things, as guys, we got to hustle and just make it happen. And I think people do appreciate that and catch on.
All right, it's now time to thank our sponsor. Segment 1 in the books. Going to start with our original 2, R5 Stitch and Print. You can find them at r5print.com. They will take care of all your screen printing and embroidery needs. Best thing I like about R5 Print and Stitch, R5 Stitch and Print. Sorry about that. Troy Rousey be like, come on, Steve, get it together. Is that they offer an opportunity for you. Like, if you don't have an idea of what you want, you can go in with Troy and their team, and they'll sit down with you. So whether you need a logo or you're thinking, what would be the best items that I could get for whether it be a company, business, or even personal, they'll take care of you. They got an in-house graphic designer. That's a big plus. And so again, I invite you to see Troy and his team at R5 Stitch and Print. In fact, the story of Troy is featured right here on Experience the Buzz. That would be episode number 25. Again, their website is r5print.com. If you're into dialing up on the phone, you can call them at 916-454-3773. And R5 Stitch and Print also has a social media presence on both Instagram and Facebook. Now, also want to thank Pit Boss Jerky. Just touched base with Joe Green. He is the pit boss. His story is featured in episode 26. So we went back to back with 2 of the original 2. And their website is coming soon. Joe has told me it's happening. I know I keep telling you every week, but I'm going to keep telling you till it happens. And when it happens, it's going to be absolutely huge. What does he specialize in? Well, beef jerky. And I finally got the name of the 13th flavor. It is White Bull's Barbecue. That's right. You heard me right. 13 flavors, including a flavor that is named right after the show. It's called Experience the Buzz. Then you throw in their raspberry apple chipotle. One of the favorites, island teriyaki. Go back to the beginning on the first 6, which is pepper garlic, Pit Boss Original, Sweet Summer, Honey Gold, Sweet and Smoky, and Little Heat. And also they have a keto mix. Okay, so if you want to order, the best way to do so is get on that order board. Yes, you got to dial up this number. Go ahead and write this down. It's 916-769-6807. Again, 769-6807 with the area code 916. Website coming soon. Pit Boss Jerky, thank you. R5 Stitch and Print, thank you. Now let's get back to our conversation with Bobby Siravo of iFit Golf. So once again, our guest is Bobby Siravo. We're going to do a little transition here, talk more about golf. But again, iFit Golf, and you could go to their website, ifitgolf.com. We're going to talk a little bit more at the end of today's podcast about my custom experience, just so you have an idea. Again, average Joe here. I embrace the fact that I'm a 20 handicap. I'm good with that. I'm trying to get better. It's going to be a lifelong journey. I don't know if it'll ever happen. I believe people are gifted with being able to play the game of golf, but again, it is for everyone. So my transition is just you growing up. Like, take me through your childhood and stuff and how you got to this journey. And obviously golf became a passion for you. I'm sure people would love to know your background.
Oh, great. Well, I was, my dad was a big golfer. And that's how I got into the game. And his dad was, so my grandfather was a golfer as well. So that got me into the game. But my real love was baseball. And growing up, I always, baseball. I played all 3 sports up until high school. And then I dropped football. But then I played basketball and baseball in high school. I didn't play golf, but I was around the game for a long time. In summer times, played golf with my dad all the time. On the weekends, he always played. Golf was always on the TV. I recognized the players and I watched golf on TV, but it wasn't a cool sport. Steve, when we were growing up, it wasn't baseball player. That's what I wanted to be. And so I actually ended up played baseball and basketball at Mariloma High School.
Okay.
And then I actually played baseball at Sac City for 1 year. And of course, Jerry Weinstein was a great coach at Sac City. And I found out real quick, there was no future for me in baseball. And I thought, if I put all the efforts I've been putting into that sport, into golf, maybe I'd be curious to see where that would get me. I'm 19 years old at the time. And so I'd started playing golf. I told my dad, and he said, no, stay playing baseball. Golf is too hard and stick to do it. Well, anyway, he said, hey, if you get a job in golf, I got a job out at Mather Golf Course. He said, and you prove to me that you're really serious about this, I'll support it. And so in a matter of like 6 months, I had, because I was probably a high 70 shooter as a non-golfer. I never played in one junior golf tournament. It was never on my radar, right? And so I ended up getting pretty good. And at the time, Sierra College was the only JC in town that had a golf team. And so after my year at Sac City baseball, I went to Sierra College and I played a year on the golf team there. And now I was getting pretty good. I was shooting in the low 70s and starting to compete in the local tournaments and play pretty well. And so from there, I went to San Jose State and I played on the golf team at San Jose State. At that time, it's about where I started to really, a good friend of ours is Tony Padilla. So who just refereed in the Final Four, by the way.
Crazy.
So this is how it all kind of started for me in golf, really getting good. Is Tony was refereeing my high school basketball games. And I knew him from refereeing the basketball games. So I saw him in my very first golf tournament after Sac City baseball. And I showed up to Bing Maloney carrying a bag. And I see Tony on the putting green. He goes, hey, who are you caddying for? And I'm like, I'm playing. He goes, you play golf? I go, this is my very first tournament. Anyway, I shot like 88 the first round, right? But what was great is Tony said to me afterwards, he goes, hey, if you ever want to play, let me know. I said, great, and I called him right away because I wanted to start playing. Well, Tony was the one who introduced me to Kevin and David Sutherland. He was the one that introduced me to a good friend of ours, Jeff Griffin, who played at Fresno State as well. And that's how I started getting into meeting those guys and playing with those guys and seeing, okay, these are the best players around. And I always felt like learning best is playing with the best. And that's why I just got better and better by being around those guys and watching how good they were. And so from there, I ended up going to San Jose State. Then after that, I turned pro. Tried it for about 3 years. Seriously tried it, or traveled around the mini tours and whatnot. Did the Q schools, and still remain friends with those guys through there. And that's how the golf playing journey of it all sort of happened and came about. So I wasn't a junior golfer. I was a baseball player, but I loved the game. And then when it was time to really get after it, I had the energy and the passion to keep going for it. And I think I just really met some good people on the way, and who, by the way, are still friends of mine that I speak with probably on a weekly, if not monthly basis for sure.
So, Bobby, continue on. Tony Padilla being a big part of your connection with golf.
Yeah. So Tony refereed my high school basketball games. And I was connected with him in that way and recognized him. And I didn't see him for a couple years. And then I went to my first golf tournament that I ever played in, was out of Bing Maloney. And Tony was a good golfer, by the way. And he was playing competitive golf. And Tony, I showed up carrying a bag on the putting green, and he hadn't seen me for a while and asked what I was up to. And then he said, by the way, who are you caddying for in this tournament? And I said, I'm not, I'm playing. He said, I didn't know you played golf. I said, yeah. Well, actually, this is my first tournament. So anyway, I shot 88 the first round. But he was so gracious because he came back and said, hey, if you ever want to play, let me know, this, that, and the other. So sure enough, later that week, I called him and said, hey, let's go play or whatever. And he kind of took me under his wing, and he was kind of introduced me to Kevin and David Sutherland because he knew them from being in the golf circles. Also, another good friend, Jeff Griffin, who played golf at Fresno State with those guys, was a Sacramento player. And so I started being able to hang around those guys and play golf with them. And I learned so much. And I think nowadays in the world, we don't have enough of, like, I call it playground stuff, where you go to the playground and you learn by watching others, whatever your sport was. If you were younger, you watched the better players, you imitated them, and you got better. I was doing that on the golf course. Now I was playing with the best players around, watching them, learning from them, sort of imitating the way David taught me how to chip. And I just watched him do it. It's not like he said, do this, or I just watched him. And so from that point on, I was very, very fortunate to meet those guys, and thankful for Tony to introduce them to me when he had no reason, because I was not a very good player, but for him to kind of take me under his wing and introduce me to these guys. He also took me to some money games and stuff like that around town that cost me a few bucks for a while there before I got halfway decent. But it was a great experience to be able to be a part of that and sort of developing my game when it needed to play against really good competition.
Well, and I love how you went about it, because I think of the modern day, and especially with technology now, what do? We hop on YouTube. Rick Shields is my guy. I love going to Rick Shields. Just, you know what? And here's what I like about him is he just, I don't know. I just feel like I could connect with what he's saying, because it's not too much over the top. But listen, it could be Rick Shields. It could be anyone. You're going to YouTube to try to figure it out. But the problem is when you get to the course and then you try to start implementing these things, you don't have any feedback. So I like how you speak to the fact of just going to the course and being around the guys.
I coach at Jesuit now, Steve, as you said earlier, and I really encourage my guys to go out and play golf and shoot a score and get good at that. So many kids are spending way too much time on the driving range trying to perfect the swing. I used to do a lot of putting practice. I take 2 or 3 balls and go putt and putt and putt. Now you go to the putting greens and they're littered with putting mirrors and lines and ropes and all this kind of stuff. And it's like they're robots out there. I'm like, wait a second. And so there's so much structure nowadays in all kids sports, everything is supervised. And I don't think kids can experiment, learn their boundaries, find out, try things, experiment. And if they don't pull it off, that's how you learn, by practicing flop shots and hitting them fat and thin and sculling them before you finally start getting it. But if you go to a coach every time for a lesson, it's like you're looking for their approval and their feedback on everything versus just discovering it on your own. And I just think back to the days of, like I said, growing up on a playground, whether it was basketball, watching the kids. I learned how to dribble behind my back and between my legs and no look passes and all that from watching these other guys do this on the playground. And then I would go home and imitate that stuff and try to perfect it in my own driveway. And I think nowadays, if you try to do that in front of a coach, they tell you, don't do that. That's, I don't want to say, not fundamental, whatever it might be.
Now you're at San Jose State. You've obviously embraced the fact that, okay, I've made the transition from baseball, which you love,
Yeah,
to now golf. You also were the captain of the team, so it means
yeah.
you're doing pretty well, leading the team and everything. In your mind now, are you saying, "Wow, I PGA Tour," because obviously you had some experience of going there. So kind of take me through that, because in when my conversation with Kevin and David Sutherland, who have also been on the program, they shared like the difficulty and the grind that goes behind trying to qualify getting on the PGA Tour.
Yeah, I think what kept me going was I kept getting better every year. I just kept getting a little better, a little better. So I was like, I'm going to ride this thing out because I keep getting better. And then you have a little success here and there in the pro level, and okay, I kept getting better until about third or fourth year, and then I wasn't getting any better. And the kids that were behind me were passing me by, the good players, and then I was like, okay, that's kind of where I was like, this probably isn't going any further. Um, but I also talk when you talk about the grind, I also think about, now I'm about 26, 27, 28, and you start kind of feeling like you're losing a little bit of stride with your peers in the sense of they're on to their careers. Some of them are getting close to getting married, buying their homes, and I was living with my grandmother, and I owned a car, but I had no, it was sort of like the grind of what am I sacrificing now for to continue this grind. And to me, it wasn't, I got to a point where it wasn't worth it anymore. But the grind of, you're on the road by yourself a lot, there's a lot of downtime, and of course the people you are with are the guys that you're trying to beat their brains in every week, because those are the guys you're competing with. And you find friendships here and there, and you kind of buddy up with some guys on the road, but at the end of the day, those are the guys you're trying to beat. And it's a lonely world. And in the minor league level, just like minor league baseball, it's a lonely world. There's no pay. You're doing it for the passion and the love of the game. But then you start weighing, what am I sacrificing and giving up at home to continue this grind? And then then it doesn't become fun. And that's kind of where most guys probably are like, all right, this is the kind of the end of the rope. Now, and also the success that you have to have. David and Kevin were always, even on the mini tours, they were top money winners. They were succeeding. They were contending to win, if not winning, tournaments. And at the end of the day, I don't want to say they were having, making a living at it, but they were putting money in the bank at doing it, not just sort of covering expenses and whatnot, or felt like you're spinning your wheels. So from that standpoint, I think there was success that they saw that they could continue down the road, where I felt at my point, is like, I'm just trying to cover my expenses week to week with the earnings. So
Well,
anyway, and then you go, just like anything, you go as far as you can playing, and then you start teaching. Those that
right.
can't play the game anymore start teaching it.
So what came next for you? Because you have life as a caddy that you did in 2005, 2006,
Oh yeah,
but
yeah.
then you were
Ooh.
also, you were also an instructor too. So what came first after you decided, okay, not gonna do the tour as a player? What was
Yeah.
next for you?
Next was becoming an instructor. Is passing along the information that I knew for my own game, because I went to different instructors and I learned a lot. How could I pass that along to others? And I did that for about 5-6 years, and at El Macero Country Club, and then at Del Paso. And that was that's where I learned the skills of connecting with people, and using communication, and at the end of the day, creating not just the information. I realized in giving golf instruction, it wasn't so much about the information. Sometimes it was about creating that entertaining environment somewhere where people felt like, I'm coming back to this guy because I enjoyed the hour I spent with him. Yeah, there's a few nuggets for my golf game, but at the end of the day, it was an enjoyable hour, whatever it might have been, to be around somebody. So I developed sort of that skill, if you will, giving golf lessons and teaching people from all different, levels of game to ages, different walks of life. And I was able to connect with a wide range of people. And I think that's what served me well then when it came to going into the business that I'm doing, was I connect with a lot of different people. And so those days of the instruction part, really, that's where I go back to that. So I did the teaching, and I was working at Del Paso, Steve, and the golf course went through a renovation, as you may know. In 2004, was the last day of operations there was December 31st, 2004. That was my last day of work there. And then 2005 and a little bit of 2006 is when I did the caddying. And so, and I obviously had known Kevin for a long time. In 2004, when I knew the golf course was going to close and I wasn't going to be teaching anymore, at the time I didn't know I was going to go back to teaching. I just knew Del Paso was going to be renovated for over a year. So in 2004, I asked Kevin if I could come out for a couple of weeks and try it out caddying, and he agreed. And so we went out in August for 2 weeks. And the very first tournament I caddied for him, he shot 66 the final round and finished top 10 in the first tournament. And I thought, wow, this is, I enjoyed that. I really enjoyed it. So anyway, the rest of 2004, he was trying out different caddies and whatnot. And then he agreed at the end. And I said, I don't need to wait for Del Paso to go. I can go right now. I'm ready to start. And then in 2000, so that's when 2005 is then when I went with Kevin and went out and caddied. And I was not a very, caddying is different than teaching. And although I'd been around the game as a player, as a coach, and been around great players, caddying is completely different. And I don't know that I can get it now, but I didn't get it at the time. I went out there trying to be an extra set of eyes as a coach, maybe, and probably was in that realm too much versus being in the caddy role. Two completely different roles. And Don Bauckham is Kevin's longtime instructor, and Don would call me a lot and ask me, what am I seeing, and pass the information along to him, and then he and Kevin could talk about it. I never probably stripped the role for myself of getting into caddying more than I could leave coaching, So anyway,
what
so
about
did
that experience, like being a caddy though? I mean, we hear stories, but I don't think we really get to pull the curtain back on what that's like. And, I'm just amazed. And with Kevin, he's got a great demeanor about him. So I imagine very easy to work with, but that after you shared this information, I am going to ask you about that infamous 2015 story, which is just truly amazing. We'll get to that in a second. But yeah, because we got to share that. But tell me about, what it is. Like you said, the differences between being, an instructor and a caddy, but there is so much more that goes into being a caddy for a tour professional.
There is a lot that goes into it, and a lot that you are like, it goes like an umpire or a referee. A good caddy, you don't even notice they're there, type of a thing, because they just do their job and so smoothly and seamlessly, and you don't even know they're there, type of thing. And the player probably feels that way as well. It's just, he's along for the ride, and the caddy, there are some really important things that you have to do is in advice, and in whether it's reading the green, and most importantly, choosing clubs. And you talk about that, and that process of the margin for error is so small, and the wrong club or the wind or something like that can really, play an effect. But I think the overall is you are spending so much time together. You see it in the rounds of golf on TV, but you don't see the practice rounds, the pro-ams. There's so much time you're spending together. And so the conversation can't always be about golf and the working aspect of it. It is over the shots and stuff, but in between, like I said, the practice rounds and also the pro-ams, when you're walking the shot, those are kind of laid back days a little bit. So the conversation, you just gotta like being around one another, because you're around some other. So a lot of times caddies look for something different than who they are, or the pro looks for the caddy to be somebody to be entertaining, funny, laugh, take their mind off the game. And Kevin and I were similar in ways that we love to talk about sports, and we were always talking about whatever games were being played and some things like that. So there's a natural fit to talk about that as well. But a caddy, there's being the mental part of the game of understanding your player, when he needs a little, pick me up, or when he just needs to be let go and let some steam off. Every player is different, certain, being able to read greens, being able to pick clubs, those are all important things. It was a great experience. And something I'll always, once there was a couple great stories about that are interesting, because Kevin, we were paired with Tiger for 6 rounds that year. And it was great great experience with that is Kevin and Tiger played together on Thursday and Friday at LA at Riviera. They did it also at Byron Nelson in Dallas, and also the PGA Championship. It was interesting at the Byron Nelson, though, it was Tiger's first time he missed the cut. It was his cut streak was broken. Wow. He made 142 straight cuts, and he was paired with us and Kevin when he missed the cut at Byron Nelson. So it broke his streak. Well, then a couple months later, they're paired together at the PGA Championship, and Kevin and Tiger both needed to birdie the 18th hole on Friday to make the cut, and they both birdied 18. And I'll never forget, Steve Williams came up to me. He was Tiger's caddy at the time, and came up and said, "I thought you guys were our kryptonite," because it looked like they were going to miss the cut again, but they both birdied. And so that was a good, really great stories of being out there with the great players. And Kevin was he was always paired with good players on Thursday and Friday. It's good stuff.
Well, 2015 rolls around, Bobby, and the U.S. Open Senior Championship at Del Paso Country Club takes place. Bernhard Langer, he's got a caddy, Terry Holt, and Terry Holt gets a bug bite to a degree where he cannot caddy anymore. This is an amazing story that hit the golf world in a pretty fun way. Take me through it.
Yeah, Steve, I was volunteering that week in my sort of area of expertise, caddying. I was the caddy hospitality guy, right? I took care of the caddies, and, typical for caddies, the cart barn was where they were sort of being staged. Their hospitality area was in the cart barn at Del Paso. So we kind of dressed that up as nice as we could, and had a TV and some couches, tables and chairs, and that's kind of where all their catering food was delivered. But anyway, I was familiar with about a dozen or so caddies that week from my days to caddy, and then Terry Holt happened to be one of them. And so we were making friendly conversation, and he was aware that this was my home course, and I knew it pretty well. And little did I know what was going to happen a few days later, but on Wednesday evening, Terry was on a couch, and I thought he was sleeping, because as a caddy, I remember you just grab sleep anytime you get it. And, he's all balled up on a couch over there. And I figured he was sleeping, and walked by him a couple times, didn't even think anything of it. Well, I noticed his pant leg was rolled up, and he had this huge, like, red welt area. And so I was asking about it. He goes, "I felt like I got some type of insect bite, and I'm having this terrible reaction." So I, get the paramedics over, and they're taking a look at him. They call him a prescription, and he takes off Wednesday night, and I don't think anything of it. And Thursday morning, about 9 o'clock, he's walking into the caddy tent, and he still has his pant leg rolled up, and his leg. He looks at me and he goes, "I'm not going to be able to go today." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, I got a couple guys here that have been waiting for bags all week." He goes, "Yeah, I don't want them. Can you go?" I'm like, "Whoa, hey," like not even close to being on my radar, right? And he said, "Yeah, I obviously had the experience, the golf course. I think you'd be a perfect fit." And I just needed to make one. So my brain is just running like crazy right now. Like, wait a second, I'm supposed to be here taking care of my volunteer duties. I was in charge of people and what they need to be doing. So I called Mike Green, the head pro at Del Paso, who's also being in charge of some stuff. I said, "Hey, I got this going on." He goes, "Hey, I'll find somebody to cover for you. You got to go do this." Right. So anyway, I said, "Great, I'll do it." And he said, "Great, Bernhard will meet you in the locker room at 11 o'clock. I think the tee time was like 12:15. Sure enough, I meet Bernhard, and he says, "Terry said you're a really good caddy and you know the greens well." So I was like, "Oh, great. There's no pressure already." So he said, "Okay, well, let's meet on the putting green in about 15 minutes. And we went on the putting green, and he just kind of told me his process of how he reads putts and what he does. And then I threw the bag over the shoulder. We went to the range, and anyway, that day, it must have been 110 degrees that day. It was so hot. He had an afternoon tee time, and I just remember it being just real hot. But anyway, we go to the driving range, and David Sutherland was caddying for Kevin that week, and their tee times were one group apart. And so I'm up on the driving range with Bernhard, and David and Kevin are hitting balls. They turn around and look at me like, "What are you doing?" Scott McCarron is doing TV for Fox that week. So he comes up on the range, "What are you doing?" And Scott was real gracious, because he went up to Bernhard and he said, "Look, you got a good guy. I've known Bobby a long time. A lot of, just said, you're in good hands." I remember being appreciative of Scott for saying that. So anyway, Bernhard was like 1 over the first round. He made a long putt on 18 for birdies. So that kind of ended kind of nice. A lot of media requests afterwards for me to talk about the situation. It was kind of unique, you know. So I'm in here answering all these questions and asked Bernhard too, because Terry was a fabulous caddy. You know, was down, and so it was pretty obvious on TV because it was a marquee pairing. Colin Montgomery was in the group, so TV picked on it. Brad Faxon and Greg Norman were talking about it. And of course, Scott was doing the roving reporter action, so he was able to deliver, you know, a little behind the scenes background of who I was and whatnot. So, and well, the good news is the next day I had to go again. Terry was still down. Bernhard shot 66 the second day and went right into contention. And there were so many members of Del Paso, obviously, that were watching, and they were all, you know, cheering me on, yelling my name. It was hilarious. And we were walking off one tee. Bernhard said, "This is the first tournament more people know my caddy than me." So it was a lot of fun and great experience. 71-66. He was in third, and the weather got cooler, and miraculously Terry's injury became better. So I still don't know if it was Terry getting out of those 110-degree days or he really had a bug bite, but it was a lot of fun, and I'll always remember that week, because not only was it just fun caddying for Bernhard, who was very gracious to me, a lot of complimentary things, shot me a nice text after the event of how nice it was to get to know me, things of that nature, and anything he could ever do. I've never spoken to him since, but anything he could ever do for me. And then, of course, all the people at Del Paso that were there watching and rooting us on. It was a lot of fun. And Kevin had a great week. And so it was a good week all the way around for everybody involved.
That's got to be a great moment for you, especially when you were in that moment where you're talking about, you look over, you see Kevin and David, you look over, you see Scotty McCarron, and here you're in this position. You're at Del Paso Country Club. So it's like it kind of all got brought together for you.
Yeah, I didn't. Well, you know, it's interesting. If I had time to think about it, I don't know how it would have played off. But since I had like an hour and a half or 2 hours to get this thing going, you know, they didn't have time to think too much about it. It was just, in fact, probably the worst thing that happened was I was wearing these comfortable shoes that I was going to be standing on my feet all day long, volunteering. But these aren't the shoes I would have been wearing to go caddy. And that night I got home and I had blisters on my feet like you couldn't imagine, because they were the wrong shoes I was wearing. I figured about halfway through the round, like, man, my feet are killing me. And it was one of those deals where you just couldn't wait, you know, take the shoes off. You could see the blood on your socks already. And you're like, this isn't going to be pretty, you know? But yeah, so lining all that up the way it went down, it was, looking back on it, I was like, wow, that was a lot of unique things that came about to make it happen to be kind of a special, cool day.
I love it. Bobby Siravo is our guest, and we're going to transition into this final segment here. I've got a couple things on my mind. Number one being the Masters. It is Masters week, and by the time we air this, which will be on Friday, there'll be kind of 2 rounds in the books and everything. But not only is the world going to be able to witness this great golf tournament at Augusta, Georgia, you're going to be there. So that's pretty exciting. And I forgot to ask you, because you had mentioned that you were going, if this was your first experience. My guess is no, but am I wrong there? How many times have you been to Augusta?
Yeah, Steve, this will be third trip to Augusta.
Okay.
And so I kind of know the routine. My last visit was 2018, but before then it was like 2002. So it had been a long time, and things had changed a lot from the first to the second one. I don't think things are going to change too much from the last one to this one. However, I have a unique experience. Sort of a VIP experience, and I'm going as a guest of Ping Golf, and that'll be a real cool experience. Something that's many people don't realize. There is this sort of hospitality suite at Augusta. As in most tournaments, you see USGA events, especially, you see these huge tents, corporate tents, things of that nature. Well, Augusta, you never see that on TV, but there is an area. It's called Berkman's Place, and it's off the 5th green. And it's a 90,000 square foot sort of restaurant shopping experience, if you want to call it, that has 5 restaurants, shopping experience that's unlike all the others, sort of where you can get merchandise, the different merchandise there. They have 3 replica greens. So it's a real VIP experience that you get that most people don't realize. Tickets are, I don't know what kind of $6,000 to $10,000 a day for this experience. And so as a guest of Ping, it was like, I can't afford to turn this one down. So I'm really looking forward to going to it. And Saturday, Sunday are the days I'm going to be there. I've never been there on the weekend. I've always been for practice rounds and the weekday rounds, but never been there on a weekend to experience the roars of Augusta, if you will.
Yeah, it's a bucket list items, I think, for any sports fan. You don't even have to be a golf lover, but Augusta really sticks out. So having gone through the experience the first 2 years that you mentioned, 2002 and 2018, if you could just give the average Joe like
Yeah.
just kind of a glimpse of what that's like, because what you see on TV is magnified, isn't it, when you're there in
Yes.
person?
What I take away is there's two things that I think of going to the Masters, and I know you've been, Steve, is the experience and how the tournament is run. You know, they have it at the same time every year, the same place. They know how many people are going to come. They know how many people are going. They know how much food they're going to need, where the people are going to go, the bathroom stalls. They got it all dialed and figured out. So it runs so smoothly. You see all these people, and you think of waiting in lines and things of that nature, but they have it dialed in. So your experience, besides being at a great golf course and the best players in the world, they have gone out of their way to make sure that your experience is smooth, easy. You have great viewing lines. Most people understand that there's some hills at Augusta, but there's these natural amphitheaters around the greens, if you will, settings where a few rows of chairs and then a few more rows that you don't have to get on your. For myself, I don't have to get on my tippy toes to look over people's shoulders, and so the holes are so close to one another as well. It's not like you got to walk. There's bang bang bang, greens and tees and fairways cross one another, so it's just a great viewing experience. So the whole experience itself is just one of those, like you said, bucket list that actually meets your expectations.
And I would agree with that. And you heard Bobby mention that I had the opportunity, and that is the case. 2010, I believe, was the year as a guest of Kevin Sutherland. And it was, I can't, it's indescribable because I was able to go there for 2 days. And so my strategy was to, we got to go there for, the pro-am ahead of time and the practice rounds, which, by the way, are very exciting to watch, especially at Augusta, watching these guys getting prepared for this big tournament. But then the first day, I followed Kevin and his group all the way through, which was very fun. And he actually did very well in the first round. I think he was in the top 5, I believe. I may be right or wrong on that one, but I know he had done well. And then the second day was just about, okay, I'm going to go to the premier spots and watch certain golfers come in. And I wish I could have stayed for the whole weekend, but even taking in those 2 days, and of course getting my egg salad sandwiches and sweet iced tea, I mean, there's nothing like it. So it's funny because my oldest son, Toph, who is really into golf right now, he's all, Dad, we got to go to the Masters. And I said, you know what? We will make that happen. And of course, if I do it another time, it would be to be there from start to finish. So it's cool that you're getting the Saturday, Sunday experience because we know that's like no other.
Yes, I've sat on my couch and watched it every year, and to be on the grounds and kind of feel that experience is something I'm really looking forward to.
So we're not going to talk about winners or anything like that because, like we said, this will air on Friday. But man, it's going to be a great field for the Masters tournament. As we continue to talk golf with Bobby Siravo of iFit Golf. One thing I do want to mention is the fact that you talked about your golf experience, and it's pretty amazing because as you're speaking, I'm thinking of your boys. And it's pretty cool because you got Ben and Brady. And Brady right now, University of Pepperdine, basically went through like a similar journey of yours, which is pretty amazing. And I like the fact that when we talked about it, you said, you know what? Never pushed him to do it. He was able to kind of capture that on his own. So now being able to see your boys do as well as they're doing, that's got to be a great thing for you and Brenda.
Thank you, Steve. That is really what it's all about. That's for sure. I enjoyed being a coach and watching them develop in their sports, and that, I think they turned out to be great people because of their sports and athletics, and learning to deal with adversity and learning how to deal with becoming teammates, that type of a thing, and learn to get along with others. But the journey was always their own. And as much as I was a coach and wanted to be around it, the journey was their own. And as far as Brady and his golf game, he learned by watching and hanging around, not only myself, but Kevin Sutherland at Del Paso was always gracious to Brady and let him, let him play along, and he developed his game by watching. And I'm so big on that as my coaching days, and now at Jesuit. I'm so big on experiencing and learning by watching others, and then getting to play with good players, but then getting to see them all the way through in this journey of his, now moving on from Jesuit, where he'll go to Pepperdine next year. He's going to be put on a really good team with really good players, and he's going to have to figure it out how to compete with those. It's sort of like he's going on the playground with the best players. You better figure out, how you're going to survive, and it's by competing and watching, not going to work on your swing with a golf coach or getting mirrors on the putting green. It's like, these guys are beating me, I got to get better, and I'll go figure it out. So it's been a fun journey to watch that, and I'm just kind of on the sidelines now as dad more than coach. And it's not an easy, sometimes when you're coaching you're in the game, and it's a little bit easier when you're in the stands watching, or on the sidelines, or off on the fairways. It's more nervous because you don't have as much control.
Well, and Bobby, with the experience that you have to speak to that as far as Sacramento is concerned, think about all the golfers that have come out of this area,
Oh,
and then
yes.
speak to the program, the first tee program, the junior golf program that the PGA has with their camps and clinics and tournaments and everything. Like, Sacramento is a great place. I'm sure you can attest to that.
There is no doubt that there is a culture of golf in Sacramento, that the tournament golf, that they embrace. I will tell you, the Morton golf family over at Hagan Oaks has done a wonderful thing with golf, embracing golf and encouraging not just golfers to get into the game, but rewarding excellent golfers, golfers who aspire to be college golfers or professional golfers. Um, that culture is being bred here in Sacramento. We can go from, obviously the Sutherland brothers, Scott McCarron, Cameron Champ. To a certain extent, there was Nick Watney, and then that's just on the men's side of things. And it goes further on down where you just get these guys. I believe it just goes down from the next generation of seeing what these guys accomplished, who want to be better than them. And we have this great group in Sacramento. There's some wonderful golf instructors, wonderful golf courses, lots of tournaments. Northern California is a great area to compete. The Northern California Golf Association runs the best tournaments there are for amateur golfers who are trying to compete at a high level. There's a lot of tournaments in the Bay Area, Monterey, great courses, and you can really develop your game by playing in these tournaments. Very fortunate to be a part of this location.
All right, another segment in the books featuring Bobby Siravo. Hope you are enjoying the conversation. Love that last part. Got the final part coming right around the corner. Another episode, timely because of Masters and opening day. Oh, man, it's such a great time of the year. Want to thank two of our four sponsors, Little Whale Swim School. Anya Hall, who leads the way, she is featured in episode 6. They are the premier swim school right here in Sacramento, located at 4106 El Camino Avenue. You can check them out on the website, littlewhaleswim.com. What sets them apart? Well, first of all, their indoor facility is custom built. That means you're going to have a nice heated pool. You don't have to worry about the elements of nature. That's good. The second part is that they're year round. That's huge right there, because I don't know about you, but when I think about my swim lessons, they only occurred in the summer, right? As far as a public thing. And if you wanted to go beyond, you found someone personal to train you. Well, in this case, they're there year round, and it goes all the way from babies up to adults. So everywhere in between, they have an amazing staff of people who are there to teach you and train you. And of course, even if you're on a swim team, you could go to Little Whale and be able to, increase and improve your strokes so that you can be ready for that swim team. And we know with summer around the corner, this is the best time, although it is year round. So again, that's Little Whale Swim School at littlewhaleswim.com. They too are also on social media, on Instagram and Facebook. You can find them at Little Whale Swim. And we'd also like to thank Matt, the mortgage guy, mtmg.com. If you're thinking about refinancing your home or even just going after a loan, you'll want to check in with Matt and his team. You can do that by going to the website, as I mentioned. Call them up at 916-802-9291. Again, another small business that is featured right here on Experience the Buzz. Matt and his team helped my wife and Kristen get through a refinance from beginning to end. Took about a month. Best part I loved about it was the fact that their team was there. If I had any questions, boom, I could shoot an email, and within, seriously, minutes, they would be back to me saying, hey, we can help you here. And so I really appreciated that because, yes, I had a lot of questions along the way. But again, it took a month. Also, when you go to the website, mtmg.com, you will find great tools like the home purchase qualifier, refinance rate checker, today's mortgage rates, and loan options. And if that's not enough, Matt is featured on YouTube. In fact, he's a pretty big deal. Over 500 videos and 1 million views. And it's very simple. He gives quality content on mortgage education, real estate, and even personal finance. And to take it a step further, he does a live show every Monday. And so you can find him on YouTube at Matt the Mortgage Guy. And by the way, that Monday meeting takes place at 6 o'clock. So big thank you to two great sponsors, Matt the Mortgage Guy and Little Whale Swim School. We are now going to get back to our conversation, my conversation with the one and only Bobby Siravo. All right, so it all circles back to coming back to iFit Golf. And, I got that custom experience and, I stepped in and it was perfect because I told you, I said, listen, I am open. I know people will have specific requests, whether it be, the type of driver they want or putter or even brand that they want. But really, I just said I'm open to the process. And I have to say it was a great process. And maybe you could just kind of like take us through that. Someone who's coming in and saying, a new set of clubs, how do I do this?
Yeah. Well, the first thing is, we want to just see where give you an evaluation. Where are you right now? And not only just how much you play and how much you practice, but where's your swing? How fast do you swing? How far do you hit it? How consistent are you? And then we can kind of use that as a baseline to then set expectations for you to figure out what you can expect. And then when we start fitting the clubs, everybody's going to have an eye, like they look at, they might like one version of another. One might like the sound versus another. We try to find out and marry what your input is over the look and feel and sound of a club to what really performs. And I think one thing that's important about the fitting aspect is not overdoing something that you don't need. It's like some people don't need all 14 clubs. Life is simpler if less. And if you can get away with, 3/4 of a set, what the clubs are going to do, you can always add later. But getting the clubs that not just fit you as your stature, your build, or your swing, but fits your game. And then, like I said, you can always add later to it. But also when you go through the experience, so sort of like what you did on the simulators, you can find out what clubs work for you best, but also get an idea of what your swing is doing. Nowadays with all the launch monitor data, it's very exacting. You don't have to guess. It's like, hey, your club is coming from outside 5 or 6 degrees and your face is open 10 degrees. We got to square that up to prevent the slice. Then a little trial and error, usually from people, and we can tell them, right, hey, try this, do this with your shoulders or whatever it might be. Then you can look at the numbers and say, hey, yeah, it is improving. So it kind of gives you a little bit of a guideline. So you kind of have a combination of finding the right clubs and also maybe a little bit of a tip or two on your golf swing to kind of get you dialed as you go.
Yeah, and it was great too because even on the day that I came in, I really liked the fact that your guy there that was explaining the numbers to me, and I really appreciate that because it made sense. I could see the visual, on the simulator and everything, but then he broke down. He said, "Do you know what this number means? Do you know what this number means?" And it all started making sense. And my big takeaway was that, and I think I remember I told you, like I was at a point where I was not even using my driver. I was the guy known. I would be okay stepping up with a 1 or 2 iron on the tee, and it's like, you know what? Okay, let's get the driver. Then I got a 4 hybrid. I got a 5, 5 wood and everything, and it really has made the difference. And it was so big because explaining those numbers really helped me, I guess, give me the confidence. Now, of course, I had to go out on the course and prove it. But I think one of the big things that I remember that you said was, listen, Steve, you're not going to be perfect. They're not all going to go down the middle, but it's going to be a little bit more forgivable with the type of clubs that we're giving you. And I have to say that's exactly what happened. So I walked out with half the set. I got the rest of it it was like, 3 weeks or so, and I was good with that, and then came back,
Yeah,
bought a putter. And I'll tell you what, these are the clubs I'm probably going to have for the rest of my life. So the experience
that's
was a
great.
good one. Yeah.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that feedback. And I always tell people, like, you came in and saying, I'm not usually a driver guy. Well, what happens in golf compared to other sports is, in baseball, we can put lineups based on your skill
Mhm.
set. You're going to play shortstop, you're going to catch. Well, in golf, you got to play all the positions. You got to be the driver, you got to be the putter, you got to be the sand guy, you got to play all the positions. So we got to develop all of them to a certain level. And if you leave the driver out of the bag, you're just giving yourself, you're already, it's the one club that gives you the best opportunity to shoot lows because you can hit it the furthest. And if you take that out of the bag, you're really putting yourself behind the eight ball and trying to become a better player.
Well, Bobby, how can people find you? What are the different ways? I know we mentioned the website and everything, but
Yeah.
let everybody know how they can find you.
Yeah. Thanks, Steve. Obviously, the website gives you a lot of detail on what we do, some videos on the fitting aspect of it. That's an easy way to find us and do that. Give us a call or email us through the website, and then you can always do it that way. Also, give us a call. We're like, I always, the neighborhood bar, we're like Cheers a little bit. Not too many people remember that show, but that's who we're like. You pick up the phone, give us a call. We'll figure out whatever your needs are. Some people are always curious. I just need to figure out a club that goes 200 yards. I don't need a whole fitting. It's like, yeah, come in here, bring your existing set of the club. Let's figure out what distance you need and fill in that gap, something like that. So, but always give us a call, schedule an appointment. We like to know we're coming. Today's, days are busy. We got 2 fitting bays, and the way golf is going now, it's very busy. So, and usually half hour, an hour at the most, we can get you dialed in and find the right clubs for you, whatever your needs are.
All right, I got to finish out with a couple of fun golf questions. The number one
Yeah.
being,
Yeah.
who was your favorite golfer
Oh,
growing up, and who do you respect now?
that's easy for me because Ben Crenshaw was my hero and still is my hero. And I liked him because he was a great putter, and I used to emulate his putting stroke. And that's when I go back to, I just watched him putt. I try to imitate his putting. And I was always known for a good golfer. I just realized that putting isn't as important as driving. I wish I emulated somebody that hit the ball 300 yards. I've been better. But I always appreciated in watching Ben Crenshaw. Back in the day when I was watching TV, there was no internet. You didn't know who was doing well until the network telecast came on Saturday of where is your guy. So I could always remember Saturday, turn it on. Where's the leaderboard? Where is he? Something like that. And so I always followed him. And then he is a great historian of the game, Masters champion, 2-time Master champion. And so it was always one of my heroes. In fact, I had a good friend, John Wood, who was an excellent caddy, now reporter out on the tour. And at the Masters a couple years ago, he had Ben Crenshaw sign a flag for me, endorsed with my name and all that. So that was pretty cool.
That's awesome. Number 2,
Yeah.
have to ask this question. Have you ever had a hole-in-one?
Well, this is very sensitive, Steve. I have not had a hole-in-one. And I have come, it's starting to be known around circles. I have not had a hole-in-one. So much so where I get up to par threes now, some of the guys go, maybe this will be the time. Maybe this will be the time. And I'm coming closer, but I haven't had one. Brady's already had 2. I mean, it's just yeah, what's really bad is Brenda's starting to take up the game, and she's going to get one before me, and that's going to be really bad for me.
But isn't that an incredible thing? That is such a unique thing with golf, the hole-in-one. Like, you've been surrounded by golf all your life,
I
yet
know.
you don't have one, but you probably know people. I know people that have 6, 7, 8. My father-in-law has one from the left side and the right side.
That's a good one. I'm going to top you with that to say my dad had 2 in the same round.
Wow.
On the same 9 holes at Spanish Bay, the 12th and the 17th hole, he had 2 basically back-to-back par threes on the back 9. He had 2, and here I am. I haven't had one. So I haven't had a hole-in-one. So I hope that
I should have pre-asked that one.
Yes.
Last one for you. Of the local golf courses, listen, you don't have to give us a rating or anything, but just some of the top ones that are your favorites that you like to go to within this area.
Good question. I'm not going to say one's, maybe public, one's private. I do like Ansel Hoffman. I think the green complexes are totally challenging. They have a lot of slope. There's trees. It's hard to find golf courses with trees nowadays. So I really like Ansel Hoffman. If Rancho Marietta's North Course was in good condition all the time and you played from the back tees, that is a very challenging golf course as well. And of course, Del Paso tends to be in the best condition They lost 900 trees when they did the renovation, so maybe they lost a little bit of character to the course. But by far, as a championship course, that's probably up there. And then I would just say that Winchester, super challenging golf course as well, very pretty too, and not too far of a drive. And I would probably say those are kind of the courses that I like to I feel like if you play and shoot good scores at those golf courses, your game is really sharp. There's not much forgiveness at those golf courses for wayward drives or bad putting,
Yeah, I think that's a great list. So as we finish out here, I give you the final word. We've talked all about golf today, but again, this appeals to everyone. What would be your final word to the listeners out there?
Well, at the end of the day, I'm a coach at heart, Steve, and I just feel like golf is a game that can get real frustrating. I don't want to say real frustrating if you take it too serious, because as most golfers do take their game serious, but experiencing the joy of just playing more, experiencing when you practice that it's just a game for a lifetime, and that it's something that all levels of play, all different walks of life can enjoy the game together, and being outdoors and experiencing that. It's just golf is just something that's special, unique, the traditions, the history. I know sometimes golfers think that, the integrity and the honesty, it only comes through golf. It comes through all sports, but in golf, you just meet somebody as a golfer. It feels like you're very connected to them in such ways that maybe aren't with others. And I just think that golf is in such a great place right now. There's so many people playing the game. And as a coach, it's great to see that. And as young players that are coming through, it's exciting to see the talent that's coming through. It's amazing how far some of these young players hit the ball and what great extents their games are. But at the end of the day, it's just that this golf community in Sacramento is growing, and that we just take care of the game and continue to promote the game and all get along in this industry. I just think it's just, like I said, a game for a lifetime, and it's why we're talking and why we're connected, and I appreciate the time.
Bobby, so well said. So grateful for the opportunity, and I appreciate you coming on the program, talking about one of my favorite games, golf.
Hey, really appreciate it, Steve, and I'll try to root for your A's this year.
Oh, I appreciate it. That's all I got for now. Talk to you next time, everyone. Goodbye. Wow, what a great conversation with Bobby Siravo. I was really looking forward to that one. I look forward to all my conversations, but again, I can't express it enough. It was so timely. It really is my favorite time of the year, with the Masters coming up. And then, of course, as I mentioned, baseball, right? We got that going on. And I really appreciate Bobby and his insight. And it just goes to show, it confirms for me how great this town is. You could hear all the connections that were taking place within that conversation of the golfers like Kevin and David Sutherland, even the mention of Tony and Padilla. Tony Padilla and I, we have coached Little League together for many, many years, and I didn't realize all that he has done. And of course, he's a big official for NCAA basketball, just was at the Final Four. So again, this is Sacramento. And for me, this is why it's important to be able to spotlight this for you, because you may or may not know this information. And so I hope through Experience the Buzz, I can give that to you. So another episode, we wrap it up, put a bow on it. And guess what? We got another one coming next week. We're very excited because we got some great shows coming your way. And I hope in some way that each of these episodes will speak to you. So thank you for being a loyal listener. And in this case, a loyal viewer, as we are now on YouTube. We'll take it from there. And as I say at the end of the conversation, that's all I got for now. Talk to you next time. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you for joining Steve this week on Experience the Buzz. Steve would love to hear from you. Leave a review or contact Steve directly with any questions at scbuzzard@gmail.com. To see the other adventures of Steve Buzzard, be sure to visit buzzardball.com.